I get asked a lot, how cold does it actually get in Minnesota? Today we're going to break all of that down, talk about the seasons, and talk about truly how cold it does get right here in the state of Minnesota. What's up, guys? Jade Rowe here, and this is the Living in Minneapolis channel. If this is your first time to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by, where we break down everything about Minneapolis and what it's like to live here. I am a local real estate agent and investor. I was born and raised here. I'm helping countless people make a move to the Minnesota area or make a move within the state of Minnesota, and I would love to help you. My name, number, and email will be down below on the screen. Reach out anytime, and I would love to connect. Also, if you want to stay up to date on future videos that I release and find talking about and learning about living in the Minneapolis area helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell so that you can be the first to know about new videos when I release them. So like I mentioned, today we're going to talk all about the weather here in Minnesota. I'm currently filming this in the fall of 2023. And it is 55 degrees here today. It's a beautiful day, a little bit of wind, pretty mild temperatures. I'm in some mild sort of pants and a flannel. We are going to be looking at some graphs today because I really want to show you, what I guess other data sources are seeing and showing for what it's like to actually be here in Minnesota and what the temperature is like. So if you don't want to pay attention to graphs, just know that it does get really cold here in the winter. Minnesota's probably not gonna be a place for you if you don't want to go through that. If you don't want nothing to do with the cold ever, then it's not gonna be a place for you. Move somewhere where it's gonna be hot the entire year, because no matter where you are in Minnesota, northern part of Minnesota, southern part of Minnesota, or the central part of Minnesota, it's always going to be cold in the winter months, where we see it kind of starting in November sometimes, December for sure, December, January, February, March, and even April a little bit. So you got 3 to 4 months where you're gonna have snow on the ground. It's gonna be cold. January and February are always the worst months, because December comes, everybody's looking forward to having a white Christmas. December hits, we have an awesome Christmas. The temperatures are pretty mild, 30 degrees, maybe some high 20s, maybe even some 40s, and then January comes, New Year happens, cool, everyone's excited, but then kind of the second or third week in January is when the temperatures absolutely drop off, and it gets really, really cold here between middle of January to basically the middle of March. So if that's something you do not want to deal with ever in your lifetime, I'm just telling you right now, Minnesota is definitely not a place for you. All right, let's go take a look at the climate in Minneapolis. So I love this quote here from Weather Spark. In Minneapolis, the summers are warm and wet. The winters are freezing, snowy, and windy, and it is partly cloudy year round. Over the course of the year, the temperature typically varies from 9 to 83 and is rarely below -11 or above 92. I do agree with that, all of that. I do think, though, our summers definitely tend to get hotter than 83. July especially, I feel like it's in the 90s consistently. And in January, we have a couple weeks that are probably even colder than -11 degrees with the wind chill. This next graph here, you can see the average high and low temperature in Minneapolis throughout the course of the year. The warm, kind of hot season does last for about 4 months, from May until September. And, the average is about 71 degrees. The hottest month is definitely July, with an average high of 83, a low of 65. The cold season lasts for just over 3 months, from November 26th to March 4th. You can see average high temperature below 36, and the coldest is definitely January, like I said before, with a low of 10 and a high of 24. Man, if we get 24 in January, that's a good day, I'll tell you that. Now here is a graph just showing basically the climate in the Minneapolis area. It does get really muggy. You can see that in the June, July, and August months. Can get very muggy, and the tourism score is up there, which, most of the surveys you read, a lot of people will travel to Minneapolis during the June to kind of September timeframe. We do get a decent amount of rain, 4.3 inches in the early months of the year, kind of that spring time frame. And then, we do get a decent amount of cloud cover the entire year. There are plenty of days, though, even in the fall, that it can be completely clear, completely blue skies, when the leaves are changing colors, and it looks fantastic. Kind of going off that climate chart, we now have the cloud cover chart that we're looking at here. In Minneapolis, the average percentage of the sky that's covered by clouds does kind of vary throughout the entire year. The clearest part of the year is definitely around that June time frame, lasts for 4 months, ends around October. July is definitely an extremely clear month. We have a lot of blue skies during that time frame. It does start to get cloudier in October, as we're basically really going into the winter months. But even in October, you can get completely blue skies as well, which is fantastic. And then January, it is pretty dark. The days are short, the days are cloudy, and you don't get a ton of sunlight in those winter months, especially January and February. Now let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about, the average snowfall in Minneapolis. The snowiest period of the year lasts for about 5.5 months, starting October 27th and goes until April 15th. During that time frame in December, we can get 5 inches of snow or more. Most of the time we get, I would say, a lot of snow in, the December months, but also January. I feel like the last few years we've gotten really a lot of snow in January. And that's when it starts to become a little bit of a bummer, because December is very awesome. It's the season, or the month of Christmas. It's fantastic to have a white Christmas, but then January gets really cold and snowy and windy, and it can get kind of miserable during those times for sure. But you're gonna have miserable times any other state, right? I mean, if you move to Florida, you're gonna be having 110 degree weather. Here you're gonna be battling the winter. And I've always kind of said too, like, part of me does enjoy the winter, because you can always put on more clothes and stay warm, but you can only take off so many clothes and still be very, very hot in the winter or in the summer months in like a Florida. If you were to move there, you can always put on more clothes here in Minnesota, crank up the heat, and you'll be totally fine and comfortable, even if you went out in a blizzard. But you can see here again on this graph, obviously you don't get any snow in the summer months. October is when we start to see it. Sometimes it just kind of depends, though. We sometimes won't even get snow until December, and then it'll be done. So every single year is a little bit different, but from mid-October to basically end of March, you should expect or almost welcome snow, because it can happen. Moving on now to kind of the daylight that we see in Minnesota. I think this is a very good graph to show you kind of the daylight. The earliest sunrise that we generally will see is in the June months at 5:25 a.m. The latest sunrise is at 7:55 a.m. on November 4th. The earliest sunset is 4:31 in December, and the latest sunset is at 9:03 in June 26th. So as you can see, from kind of the March until October, the days are long, lots and lots of sun. But I 100% agree, once November hits, November till March or end of February, the days are short. The sun won't come up until 8 a.m. and it'll be gone by 4:30. So you really only have, an 8-hour day of sun. You'll be going into work and it'll be dark, and you'll leave work. If you work at an office job 9 to 5, you're going to be probably going into work. If you get in at 8, it'll be dark out still. And then when you leave at 4 or 5, it's going to be dark already. So definitely can be a bummer during those months when there isn't as much sunlight out. Here is a quick graph to show you kind of the humidity comfort levels here in Minneapolis. We don't have a ton of humidity. I mean, as you see, most of the time the air is dry here. We have very dry winters, very dry springs. From that June until end of September. I would even say end of August is when we get the muggy season. July is when it gets muggy, but it's always pretty comfortable. It doesn't really get much, doesn't really get too bad, that oppressive level. It definitely never gets that bad like you would experience in other states. Like I said, most of the time our air is dry, and then we do have those few months in the summer where it does get pretty muggy, but it's generally at a pretty comfortable level, I would say. And now to wrap it up, the daily chance of precipitation in Minneapolis. We do have a pretty wet season in the beginning of the year. The spring time frame starting in March, we have 25% chance, and then in May and June, we get up to a 41% chance every single day for rain. Can get very, very wet and a lot of rain during that time frame, which I know I've talked about before. Our grass grows and weeds grow very, very quickly during that spring time frame because we're getting a lot of rain, and then our sun comes out and it warms up extremely quickly during that May and June months. So, you can experience a lot of weed growth and a lot of grass growth very quickly. And then the rest of the year, it kind of dies off and we don't see as much rain. Again, probably like any other state, every single year is different. Some years we're going to get a lot of rain over the course of the year. Other years it stays pretty dry, and a lot of the farmers and different people here, want more rain than what we actually do see. So it's kind of a, yearly thing. But on average, that springtime, we do see a decent amount of rain. So I hope some of those charts were helpful to look at and give you an idea of the temperature here in Minnesota and how it swings between the different seasons. Again, you might love this, you might not like it, but this is the reality of living here. I love it. I love that you get a vast array of seasons and there's the different things you can do. I do enjoy that. But if that's not for you and you want it to be the same temperature all year round, or always hot, or always cold, or always moderate, Minnesota is not the place for you. Anyways, thank you guys so much again for stopping by my channel. If you found this helpful, make sure to maybe drop a comment, hit that like button below. It does help my channel get out to other people that are thinking of making a move to the Minneapolis area. If you want to be the first to learn about more videos that I release, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell again, just to make sure that you are the first to know about new content that I release. And if I can be of any service to you or anybody that you know who's making a move within the state or making a move from out of state, my information will be down below. Please make sure to reach out to me anytime. I would love to connect, talk about your goals, talk about maybe some of your concerns about moving here, and just see if maybe it is a right fit for us to work together, or even if it's a right fit for you to potentially move here. Again, thank you guys so much for stopping by. Until next time, we'll see you later.